Okay, step out of your everyday life for a minute and step into a high-stakes battlefield. In this explainer, we're diving into a deeply unforgiving environment where survival isn't just about, finding your next meal. It is entirely about establishing an empire. We're looking at the raw, unfiltered reality of the wild, a place where competing dynasties of apex predators battle for absolute supremacy over their ecosystem. It's a completely zero-sum game, and honestly, the strategies these different factions use are just as brilliant as they are brutal.
The source material we're looking at actually frames this environment with a pretty chilling observation. It says, "I am life, I am death, I give everything, but I take all. I am the savage kingdom." And wow, that really sets the tone for what we're about to explore, doesn't it? Nature doesn't play favorites, and it shows absolutely no mercy. Every single day out there, these predators are playing a ruthless game where literally any display of weakness means losing everything you have.
Now, before we get into the specific animals, we really need to understand the ultimate prize here. Because in this kingdom, power isn't about hoarding wealth or territory in the way we think of it. It's about establishing a dynasty. The biological stakes are just incredibly uncompromising. As the source tells us, if your offspring live on, your bloodline lives on, and nothing else matters. Every roaring lion, every sneaking leopard, every pack of wild dogs, they are all fighting a desperate daily war to protect their young and secure the future of that bloodline. It's basically the ultimate generational wealth, but it's paid for entirely in survival.
So here is how we're breaking down the kingdom today. We're going to analyze 4 specific factions: lions and their brawn, hyenas and their brains, leopards and their stealth, wild dogs and pack survival, and then finally, we'll look at the endless war of the environment itself. Let's jump right into part 1, lions, brawn, and dynasty. So, as the traditional apex predators, lions rely heavily on sheer brute strength, open warfare, and the empire-building power of the pride. But even among kings, power is rarely distributed equally. Take a look at the 2 extremes. On one side, we have the marsh pride. They're ruled by Queen Matsumi and King Sigakama. Their power and their numbers are practically unrivaled. They basically govern the beating heart of the kingdom through sheer terror. But then, on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, is the northern pride. Queen Satao rules there, but it's essentially a lawless exile. Satao is struggling just to raise a young, inexperienced pride on the fringes of the territory. It just proves that maintaining a lion dynasty takes constant, desperate effort. You don't just get to sit on the throne and relax.
And the distinct power strategies these monarchs use are fascinating. King Sekikama, he is the enforcer. He doesn't bluff. He will literally just snap a spine with unrivaled brute force. His queen, Matsumi, she's the giant slayer. Her strategy is elite, big game hunting to keep that massive army of theirs fed. But then compare that to Satao, the resilient. She definitely doesn't have the brawn of the marsh pride. Her power is just this endless perseverance to keep her small family alive against totally impossible odds.
And the cost of this royal competition is just staggering. Two-thirds of Sata's entire pride is suddenly gone. Why? Well, because the enforcer, King Sekachama, who actually used to be Sata's king, by the way, he returned and ruthlessly exiled his own 6 rival sons. A lion king simply does not tolerate rivals, even if they share his own blood. It's a brutal reminder that a lion's brawn is very often turned inward against its own kind.
All right, part 2, hyenas, brains, patience, and numbers.
So while lions are out there fighting head-on, the hyena queen, Zalika, she's playing a masterclass in opportunism. She knows for a fact she can't fight lions brute to brute, so she has a plan. Step 1, wait out the lions. Step 2, steal their leftovers. Every single piece of scavenged meat is a highly calculated move to achieve Step 3, which is building her army's numbers. And she's doing all of this with her eyes firmly fixed on Step 4, eventually launching a massive strike directly on the marsh when the lions are distracted. It's a total long game.
But as you can imagine, building an unstoppable army requires a merciless, rigid hierarchy. Take the story of young Kutlo, for example. He was born a disgraced runt, and his youth was just marked by failure. I mean, at one point, he hilariously fails to catch a warthog and proves himself to be a total liability to the clan. To mature, he literally had to take brutal physical punishment from his own commanders. Because the hyena clan, they beat weakness out of their recruits. But through sheer determination, Kutlo eventually forces his way into the feast. He transforms from this hungry, awkward outcast into a hardened, capable soldier for Zalika's army.
Moving on to part 3, leopards, solitary stealth assassins.
While the lions and hyenas are waging these massive, noisy wars,
Leopards operate entirely under the radar. And the biological burden placed on a solitary mother like Saba or Feifo, it is immense. Every single day, she has to secure her borders completely alone. She has to hunt without any backup. She has to constantly evade these roving packs of wild dogs and hyenas. If an aging rival, like the leopard torn ear, finds her cubs, she will kill them instantly. So leopard mothers have to be absolutely perfect, every single day. There is zero margin for error. Which brings us to this really agonizing biological catch-22. A hunting leopard is an absent mother. To make milk to feed her precious cubs, a mother like Saba or Feifo must leave them completely unprotected in a land that is literally filled with killers. The longer she takes to hunt, the worse the odds become. And the source material tragically shows us that innocence offers absolutely no protection out here. Saba actually returns from a hunt only to find her daughter killed. To survive, a leopard mother has to perfectly balance the absolute necessity of providing food with the terrifying risk of losing her legacy.
When we step back and compare these strategies, the contrast is stark. You have the brawn, the roaring lions, the whooping hyenas fighting these massive open battles and taking heavy casualties. And then you have the stealth. When the terrible dry season hits, Saba the leopard doesn't try to fight an army. She relies on her ingenuity. She hides her surviving son, Neo, deep in the crevices of leopard rock, and she quietly scavenges the drying river channels, literally extracting her salvation directly from the mud. It is a quiet, incredibly genius approach to keeping her bloodline alive.
Which brings us to part 4, wild dogs, pack survival.
So what happens when you don't have the massive size of a lion, or the huge army of a hyena, or the perfect camouflage of a leopard? Well, you get the wild dogs. These are the relentless outlaws of the kingdom, and they scale their power through intense, unbreakable coordination. The strategy of the Pale Pack is super fascinating. They are really small in number, practically refugees, but their power comes from being fiercely, undeniably loyal. They are completely dedicated to their alphas, Timamana and Malayo. When they hunt, it is a relentless, terrifying pursuit designed to completely exhaust their prey. It's a tactic so brutally effective, it can actually drive a leopard king leaping up into the trees just to save his life. It proves that in this environment, absolute teamwork can overpower individual strength. And sitting right at the center of all this violence are their puppies, vulnerable targets in a den, who represent the absolute entire future of their bloodline.
And it's that intense loyalty that leads to some of the absolute highest stakes moments in the kingdom. When Queen Zalika's massive hyena army actually targets the dog's vulnerable pups, the Pale Pack does not run. They stand their ground and fight for the lives of their young with everything they have. As the source perfectly captures it, fortune favors courageous parents. United, the Pale Pack is victorious. Against all odds, they successfully repel an army simply because their unity is absolute.
Finally, we reach part 5, the endless war for power. Okay, so we've seen the armies, we've seen the assassins, and the outlaws. But now we have to talk about the ultimate dictator of the kingdom, the environment itself. The shifting seasons act as the ultimate great equalizer, constantly forcing every single faction to adapt or face extinction. During the dry season, the Great Marsh drains, bringing this brutal famine, where aging hunters like Torn Ear simply starve and die. But then come the rains, bringing a total baptism of new life, where the land floods with prey, which prompts every predator to have a family. But of course, this is always followed by the Great Exodus. The rains stop, the herds leave, and the predators are once again left behind to starve and fiercely fight over whatever scraps remain. So the ultimate reality here is that this ecosystem is a perfectly balanced war zone. No single biological strategy dominates forever. The lion's brawn works perfectly, right up until the herds leave. The hyena's brains work until the lions return. The leopard's stealth works until they are cornered. And the wild dog's loyalty works until sheer numbers finally overwhelm them. The environment is just constantly shifting the advantage, ensuring that this war never actually ends.
Nature is a cycle that literally never stops turning. Just as one empire falls, another is always rising from the chaos to take its place. So, as the rains inevitably return and the battle lines shift yet again, who do you think will ultimately claim the throne of the Savage Kingdom?